Well, lots happened since most of you have seen me last, and I'm going to talk also a little bit about how I lost everything on this channel and why things are the way they are and where they're going, right? So let me take a step back, which is back in, guys, what was it, like 2020, I started like getting big on this channel. A lot of you guys followed me during COVID. Videos like Life of the Soy Consumer, Doomer's Girlfriend, Buy High, Sell Low, Buy the Dip. That video still gets views like every fucking day. Anytime Bitcoin crashes, that video gets views. It's pretty funny. So I created a lot of very influential content on the internet, and it's taken a lot of my life, actually. I started doing video production when I was like a child, and while I don't have the time to tell you my whole life story, suffice it to say that I did it for a long time, and then I was trying to be a YouTuber, kind of failed, and then eventually found that the Wojak memes. I actually sat next to a guy yesterday at a bar who recognized me. Right? We were like talking, and I was like, I have a YouTube channel. And he's like, oh yeah, what is it? And then like types it in. He's like, I'm already subscribed. I was like, no fucking way. That's crazy. That happened last night. Anyways, so how does this tie into the hook? About changing your behavior. See, after I realized that I was just grinding away making videos all the time, it dawned on me, hey, what I need to do is I need to learn a new skill, because skills are what pay the bills. It's the skills that you stack that make you who you are and determine how effective you are in life. So I started learning to code. I just moved to Idaho and I didn't have a job yet. I just had money, and I was like, okay, I've got, a few $1,000s. I'm going to see how many months I can go. I think I had like a 3-month runway at the time, and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I started learning to code, and I made a game in like the Unity engine with C#, and I started learning like some Solidity as well, and trying to make a blockchain Web3 project. And then that later evolved into me doing some really cool 3D marketing for a project called Spooky Shiba, and then them flying me out to Dubai, and me feeling on top of the world, literally on the other side of it. And I began a journey into starting a Web3 crypto startup, which is what that was about. And that Web3 crypto startup that I created got funded for $250,000, and a lot of it, they were paying it like every week. They would send me $10,000 every week. And this felt amazing. I had finally been like making the money I wanted to make, and it felt like I'd finally made it, right? So I got a house, I got a car, and that was where my problems began, because I started stacking lots of payments and debt on money that wasn't really guaranteed to come in, even though, they said they were going to do it, and they had all these millions of dollars they were throwing around. And that's what got me later. Later they said, we don't want to do this anymore, even though we had agreed, and there was a contract that I guess was never signed. They just started sending the money. So that's kind of what bankrupted me. Then I began to go, okay, well, I'm absolutely cooked here. Like, I think that was about 3 years. That was about 2022, right? Mid 2022. And I distinctly remember being at a ClickFunnels event and trying to learn some marketing skills. And this girl, I was in her hotel room, and she was a friend of mine, and she was like begging me to have sex with her, and I just didn't fucking feel like it, because I knew that my life and my finances had just been fucking shattered. And she called me a pussy and left. And I remember just being like so distraught with like the whole situation. By the way, this girl was so hot, like you could not even believe. You can't even, like, unbelievably hot, okay? But I just couldn't do it, because I was like, I just lost, I'm fucked. At this point, I was so depressed and lonely, because I was renting this huge house out in the Idaho, like, lands. I was just isolated in this big house that I was paying way too much money for, feeling like absolute shit because of how bad I knew things were at this point, with all the debt that I had taken on and not knowing any way to pay it, right? Because in my mind, I had been grinding for 3 fucking years, from 2019 to now 2022, like working my ass off to try and like make more than $10,000 a month, okay? And at the time I was living in Silicon Valley. $10,000 is not a lot a month there. So I felt like I made it when the Spooky Shiba team agreed to fund the project that I was going to make for them. But then, of course, there was drama about like who was going to take the token allocations, and like, I thought I was going to get paid like something from the finished app, and they were like, no, we're actually not going to do that at all. You're going to make the app and deliver it to us. And so, yeah. Where am I going with this? I'm going to move this camera over here. So that's my life story, and I hope you enjoyed it. That's where it ends. I'm killing myself. Nah, I'm just kidding. So what happened is I met this ex-MMA fighter who was also a therapist, who was turned into a yogi shaman, and he would administer the legally ketamine trips, and that was actually pretty based because most therapists suck, but this guy he was a fucking gangster. Learned a lot from that and just decided, okay, I'm not going to kill myself. I got to the point where I was working a job for $14 an hour at a go-kart track. Horrible job, by the way, absolutely terrible. And eventually my coding skills got me a job working for a company called Data Annotation, and they're contracted through Meta and Google and OpenAI to produce feedback from models. So I was getting paid $40 an hour to evaluate the models and the AI that was creating different outputs. And I learned a lot about AI in that process. And I traveled. I got a van, which is this van. I've traveled from Boise into Utah, hung out in Utah for a bit, then went to Colorado and hung out in the mountains. And this is probably summer 2024. And eventually, Data Annotation just fired me out of nowhere. They didn't explain why. 2 weeks earlier, they had sent me an offer to join the admin team because my work was so outstanding. 2 weeks later, I was just kicked off the platform. And I think it's because I violated some rule about turning in my work, because my tire went flat and my power went out in the middle of the Breckenridge mountains in the Rockies, right? So I was on some pass deep in the middle of nowhere, and I had to basically walk for 4 hours before someone picked me up and brought me back into town, and I wasn't able to submit my work. So I think that's why they fired me. From there, I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? I went back to Boise, got a job at the Boise Center because I had some connections there. I just did AV tech work like I used to do at Microsoft and Samsung. It's really boring stuff. Eventually, it got really cold, and I was like, dude, I cannot live in a van in this cold weather. I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I get DMs all the time of people asking to collaborate with me on videos. And this project-based Chad hit me up, and they wanted me to make them some meme animation videos because they're the Chad coin on BaseChain. And I did that, and I made a few $1,000s on the first project. It took me a month, which is so I didn't really make any money. But then I started saying, if we're going to keep working together, let's do a bigger campaign. And instead of charging a few $1,000s for the video, I offered them a $25,000 deal for 4.5 months of content. And this deal changed my life. I collected $12,500 in payment up front, and I was suddenly able to jet off down to California and see my family last year for the holidays at about this time. And then worked for them through about springtime, and I traveled all around California, all through the desert. Had a lot of fun there in the winter, just hanging out. And I know originally I said that I'm going to tell you how to switch gears, and maybe I won't cover that in this video because it's a little bit not a great hook, but it's something I want to talk about. Because if you can switch gears in your own brain and fix your brain, then you can start to do new things. And in many cases, that means having the time to sit down and do something and practice it. And that's how I learned to code. I sat down in 2021 and I just had the time. I said, I'm going to invest the time. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to invest the time in speaking to you guys and building Task AI, building my startup. I know it's going to work. I just have to put in the work. And this means transitioning from being a developer into being a marketer and a CEO and a content creator and an influencer. And I have a whole playbook that I'm following. And if you want to get that playbook, you can get it at Task AI. If you go to task.ai, there's a link in the description. It's the $37 one-time payment, and you get the workspace that gives you all this stuff where it shows you all the blueprints that I use both to make Task AI, to code it from scratch and own all the infrastructure, and also how to market yourself if that's what you're doing. And for the first 2 or 3 people who buy it, I will personally, you can send me an email and I'll personally help you with whatever you need if you want to do a call, because you'll be my first customer. Hear that, guys? If you're the first person to click that link, you're the first customer in this funnel. So go and check it out. Task AI is very powerful. I do have plans for making another meme video soon. I'm going to make a video called The Vance Machine, which is like all about the JD Vance meme psychofauna and like how I think the Palantir group and others that are in cahoots with it are effectively manipulating the perception around JD Vance because they're trying to get him elected so they can maintain control. So I think that's going to be a fun video. Hopefully it does well. At the moment, I'm about to go and travel across the mountains here through the Sisters Mountains from Central Oregon to the coast, where it'll be a little bit warmer because I'm tired of waking up in the morning and my drink is like frozen solid. And I'm bringing you guys along for the ride. We're going to build Task AI. And the reason that I'm building it is now you and me have the power and the intelligence at our fingertips to build something great, to negotiate a $25,000 deal, to negotiate $1 million deal if that's what you're trying to do, and build something truly great. As where that power used to only be reserved for people who had millions of dollars of funding to hire a lot of developers. Now you can do that with things like Lovable and Cursor. And I'm happy to teach you that if you want to learn more about it. I do have another channel where I talk more about like tech stuff, like tutorials. So I'll put a link to that in the description. I also have a vlog channel, which I might be vlogging more on there. That's almost everything I wanted to cover for this video. This is an awkward time for me because I have to transition from my beliefs and who I currently think I am to being a new type of person. And I'm glad that I have you guys along for the ride. Together, we can build our own technology, our own private social media organizations, our own apps, and we can take back the power from the people who have been controlling the world government, the institutions, and really society at whole, at large. That's what I've always aimed to change, was the perceived problems that I see in the culture. That's why I made the videos that I make, right? It's to highlight the inconsistencies and the ridiculousness, but also to go at a higher level and see that like both sides are played by the same people, and that it's all these control mechanisms that keep us enslaved to our impulses and try to keep us in a trance of just, being in the shrinking middle class now, following the orders and hopefully getting rewarded for it. And, that's actually the riskiest thing to do now because things have gotten so bad economically. That's it. That's all I'm going to talk about for this video. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing, bro? Go subscribe right now.